Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is leaving the Trump administration. She resigned Friday, citing her husband's battle with an aggressive form of bone cancer. She will remain in her post as the nation's intelligence chief until June 30th. In a social media post, President Trump announced Aaron Lucas, Gabbard's deputy, would serve as acting director of national intelligence. It marks the end of a tenure that saw Gabbard, former Democratic congresswoman who ran for president in 2020, largely sidelined from the Trump administration's national security operations, including the capture and ousting of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro earlier this year and the ongoing war in Iran, where she held a different position than the president. Gabbard's tenure also increased the politicization of the intelligence community as she focused on an investigation into the results of the 2020 election that Trump lost, including an appearance at the FBI search of an election center in Fulton County, Georgia, in January. We're joined now by John Brennan, former CIA director and MS Now senior national security analyst. Director Brennan, thank you for joining us this morning. I guess just to sort of set the table for us to start the conversation, I mean, how unusual was it for you to see Tulsi Gabbard kind of intimately involved? And you know, this is a job that is supposed to be someone who tracks and combats foreign adversaries against the nation, be involved in these domestic issues, not just domestic issues, but sort of falsely based investigations into the 2020 election and a push to try to seize our voting machines and investigate them.
That's highly unusual and it's inconsistent with the roles and responsibilities of the Director of National Intelligence. The DNI does have a responsibility to publish assessments of foreign interference in our elections, and that is on the analytic front. But it has no responsibility on the operational front, the collection front, and especially not on the domestic front in terms of seizing these, election-related materials, equipment, voting equipment. And so, therefore, I think everybody was quite surprised at it, whether she was in Georgia, Puerto Rico, or other places. And I don't think that she has won any friends within the administration over the past, year and a half, because she has done things that very much have been at odds with what the administration is interested in. She published this video of a nuclear annihilation that Donald Trump was upset at,
right,
and very inconsistent with what was the message that he was trying to get out.
Let's talk a little bit about those contradictions. Here's some sound from testimony in March where she was just on the exact opposite of where Donald Trump was. Let's play that.
They're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America.
The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue that capability.
Their terrorist leaders are gone. We're counting down the minutes until they will be gone.
The IC assesses that the regime in Iran appears to be intact, but largely degraded.
So there's so much of this where, the reason she's leaving, right? The reason she says she's leaving because of her husband and his battle with cancer. But at the same time, there has been a watch on whether or not when she was going to leave because of the back and forth. She is ideologically unaligned with a lot of the things that Donald Trump has been doing, especially when it comes to Iran.
Yeah, her public statements before she became Director of National Intelligence, where she was condemning foreign military adventures on the part of the United States, and also pointing out that there were previous plans to invade Iran. And so, therefore, I think her ideological views were very much inconsistent with where this administration is going. But also, I think she really lost favor with this administration, which was demonstrated by her not being a part of the discussions. She was not in the room. She was
also
not
strange.
Right. Well, yes, because the relationship between the Director of CIA and the Director of National Intelligence really is critically important. They need to get along. Mm-hmm. And it's clear that John Ratcliffe had the inside track in terms of his ability to influence the White House thinking and policy discussions, while Tulsi Gabbard was more interested in doing things that were, again, inconsistent with what the traditional role of the DNI has been. And clearly she was irritating folks, I think, at the White House. So there's no love lost. right now in terms of her decision to depart. Obviously, our thoughts and best wishes are with her husband, but it just shows that she had no real inclination to do what a DNI is supposed to do, which is orchestrate the 18 intelligence agencies and take care of some of the management issues, whether you're talking about the budget, you're talking about IT interconnectivity, you're talking about the adoption of different technologies. These are the behind-the-scenes roles and responsibilities that are not sexy, and clearly she was not interested in it.
Maybe a lot of the things she was doing was inconsistent with her jobs because she was doing things she hoped would save her job. We've been talking about this, about her standing within the administration and whether she was going to be gone or fired or leave for a year. Politico headline from June 17th, 2025, inside the clashes between Trump and Gabbard. In recent months, Trump has increasingly mused about nixing Gabbard's office completely, an idea he floated when he gave her the job. In the White House, there have been discussions about folding its mandate into the CIA or another agency. You're the former director of the CIA. Would that make sense to fold the DNI into the CIA or another agency, just do away with the DNI altogether?
Well, until the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004 basically separated out from the director of CIA the community role and the director of CIA role. Until then, there was one person, and it was the CIA director who was in charge of the community. But it's too much. I ran the CIA. I know that it's more than a full-time job. And you need to have somebody who is going to be able to look out at those agencies and, again, orchestrate this symphony of, so tremendous capabilities across many different departments and agencies. So, no, I don't think it's a good idea. Was the legislation perfect? No. But I think there is this role for community management, which is what, in fact, the DNI is supposed to do. So I'm not in favor at all of consolidating those jobs once again.